Sai Satcharitra, Chapter 7. Wonderful Incarnation, Behavior of Sai Baba, His Yogi Practices, His All-Pervasiveness, Leaper Devotee Service, Master Karpade's Plague Case, Going to Pandharpur. Wonderful Incarnation. Sai Baba knew all yogic practices. He was well versed in the 6 processes, including Dauti, that is, stomach cleaning by a moist piece of linen, 3 inches in breadth and 22.5 inches in length. Khanda Yoga, that is separating his limb and joining them again, and Samadhi, etc. If you think that he was an Hindu, he looked like a Yavan. If you think he was a Yavan, he looked like a pious Hindu. No one definitely knows whether he was a Hindu or Muslim. He celebrated the festival of Ram Navami with all the due formalities and at the same time permitted the sandal procession of Mohammedans. He encouraged wrestling bouts in the festival and gave good prizes to winners. When the Gokula Ashtami came, he got the Gopal Kala ceremony duly performed, and on each festival he allowed Muslims to say their prayer in his masjid. Once in the Muharram festival, some Muslims proposed to construct a taziyah in the masjid, keep it there for some days, and afterwards take it in procession through the village. Sai Baba allowed the keeping of taziyah for 4 days, and on the 5th day removed it out of the masjid without the least compensation. If we say that he was a Mohammedan, his ears were pierced, that is, had holes according to Hindu fashion. If you think that he was a Hindu, he advocated the practice of circumcision, though according to Mr. Nana Sahib Chandorkar, who observed him closely, he was not himself circumcised. If you call him Hindu, he always lived in the masjid. If Mohammedan, he always had a duni, that is sacred fire there, and the following things which are contrary to Muslim religion, that is, grinding on handmill, blowing of the conch and bells, oblation in the fire, bhajan, giving of food and worship of Baba's feet by means of argya, that is water, were always allowed there. If you think that he was a Muslim, the best of Brahmins and Agnihotris, leaving aside the orthodox ways, fell prostrate at his feet. Those who went to make inquiries about his nationality were dumbfounded and were captured by his darshan. Some could definitely decide whether Sai Baba was a Hindu or not. There is no wonder, for he who completely surrenders himself to the Lord by getting rid of his egoism and body consciousness, thus becoming one with him, and has nothing to do with any questions of caste or nationality. Such a one as Sai Baba was, saw no difference between caste and beings. He took meat and fish with fakirs, but did not grumble when dogs touched the dishes with their mouths. Mahatsapati, an intimate Sai Baba devotee who always slept with him in the masjid and Chavdi, said that Sai Baba told him that he was a Brahmin of Patari and was handed over to a fakir in his infancy. And when he told this, that some men from Patari had come, and Baba was inquiring about some men from that place. That is in Sai Leela magazine, 1924, page 179. Second instances, Mrs. Kashibai Kanitkar, the famous learned woman of Pune, says in the experience number 8 published on the page 79, Sai Leela magazine, volume 11, 1934, on hearing of Sai Baba's miracles, we were discussing according to theosophical convention and fashion whether Baba belonged to black or white lodge. When once I went to Shirdi, I was thinking seriously about this in my mind. As soon as I approached the steps of the masjid, Baba came in front of me and pointing to his chest and staring at me rather spoke vehemently. This is a Brahmin, pure Brahmin. He has nothing to do with black things. No Muslim can dare to step in here. He dare not. Again pointing to his chest, this Brahmin can bring lakhs of men on the white path and take them to their destination. This is a Brahmin's masjid, and I won't allow any black Mohammedan to cast a shadow here. Such a unique and wonderful incarnation was Sai Baba. On account of the merits in my past birth, I had the good fortune to sit by his side and enjoy his blessed company. The joy and delight I derived from that was incomparable. In fact, Sai Baba was pure Ananda and consciousness. I cannot sufficiently describe him, his greatness and uniqueness. He who took delight at his feet was established in his own self. Many sannyasis, sadhakas, and all sorts of men aspiring for salvation came to Sai Baba. He always walked, talked, and laughed with them, and always uttered with the tongue, Allah Malik, that is, God is the sole owner. He never liked discussion or arguments. He was always calm and controlled, though irritable at times, always preached full Vedanta, and nobody knew till the last who was Baba. Princes and poor people were treated alike by him. He knew the inmost of all, and when he gave expression to them, always surprised. He was the repository of all knowledge till he found ignorance. He also disliked honor. Such were the characteristics of Sai Baba. Though he had a human body, his deeds testified of his good deed. All people considered him as the Lord God in Shirdi. Behavior of Sai Baba. Fool that I am, I cannot describe Baba's miracles. He got almost all the temples in Shirdi repaired through Tatya Patil. The temples of Shani, Ganapati, Shankar Parvati, village deity, and Maruti were put in order. His charity was all remarkable. The money he used to collect as dakshina was freely distributed. Rupees 20 to some, 15 to some, 50 to some. The recipients thought that this was pure charity money, and Baba wished that it should be usefully employed. People were immensely benefited by having a darshan of Baba. Some became hale and hearty, wicked people were turned into good ones. Kushta, that is leprosy, was cured in some cases. Many got the desires fulfilled without any drop or medicine being put in their eyes. Some blind people got their sight back, and some lame ones got their legs. Nobody could see the end of this extraordinary greatness. His fame spread far and wide, and pilgrims from all sides of the country flocked to Shirdi. Baba always sat near the Duni and eased himself there, and always sat in the meditation, sometimes with on or other times without a bath. He used to tie a white turban on his head and wear a clean dhoti around his waist and a shirt on his body. This was his dress in the beginning. He started practicing medicine in the village, examined patients and gave medicines. He was always successful. He became known as an Hakim, that is a doctor. A curious case was narrated here. One devotee got his eyeballs quite red and swollen. No doctor was able to cure it in Shirdi. The other devotees took him to Baba. Other doctors used ointment, anjans, cow's milk, and camphorated drugs, etc. in such cases. Baba's remedy was quite unique. He pounded some biba, that is, some carpus anacardium, that is, marking nuts, and made 2 balls of them, thrusting them on one on each eye of the patient, and wrapped them with a cloth bandage around them. Next day, the bandage was removed and water was pouring out in a stream. The inflation subsided and the pupil became white and clean. Though the eyes were very delicate, the biba caused no smarting, but removed the disease of eyes. Many such cases were cured, and this is not only an instance at point. Baba's yogi practices. Baba knew all the processes and practices of yoga. 2 of them are described here. First one is Dauti or cleaning process. Baba went to a well near a banyan tree in a considerable distance from the masjid every 3rd day and washed his mouth and had a bath. On one occasion, he was seen to vomit out his intestines, clean them inside and out, and place them on a jab tree for drying. There are persons in Shirdi who have actually seen this and who have testified to the fact. Ordinary dhoti is done by a moist piece of linen, 3 inches broad, 22.5 feet long. This piece is gloved down the throat and allowed to remain in the stomach for half an hour for being reacted there and then taken out. But Baba's dhoti was quite unique and extraordinary. The second one is Khanda Yoga. In this practice, Baba extracted the various limbs from his body and left them separately at different places in the masjid. Once a gentleman went to the masjid and saw that the limbs of Baba lying separately at different places. He was much terrified, and he first thought of running out to the village officers and informing them of Baba being hacked to pieces and murdered. He thought that he would be responsible as he was the first informant and knew something of the affair, so he kept quiet. But next day when he went to the masjid, he was surprised to see Baba hale and hearty and sound as before. He thought that he had seen the previous day was only a dream. Baba practiced yoga since his infancy and nobody knew or guessed the proficiency he attained. He charged no fees for his cures, became renowned and famous by the virtue of his merits, gave help to many poor and suffering people. This famous doctor of doctors cared not for his interests, but always worked for the good and welfare of others, himself suffering innumerable and terrible pain many at a time in the process. One such instance I give below, which will show how pervasiveness and most merciful characteristics of Baba. Baba's all-pervasiveness and mercy. In the year 1910, Baba was sitting near the Duni on Diwali holiday and warming himself. He was pushing forward into the Duni, which was burning very brightly. A little later, instead of pushing logs of wood, Baba pushed his arm into the Duni and the arm was scorched and burnt immediately. This was noticed by servant Madhava and also by Madhavrao Deshpande, that is Shama. They at once ran to Baba and Madhavrao clasped Baba by his waist from his behind and dragged him forcefully backward and asked, "Deva, for what have you done this?" Then Baba came to the senses and said, the wife of a blacksmith at some distance place was working the blows of a furnace. Her husband called her. Forgetting that her child was on her waist, she ran hastily and the child slipped into the furnace. I immediately thrust my hand into the furnace and save the child. I don't mind my arm being scorched, but I am glad that the life of the child is saved. Leaper devotee service. On hearing the news of Baba's hand being burnt from Shama, Mr. Nanasaheb Chandorkar, accompanied by the famous Dr. Parmanand of Bombay with his medical outfit consisting of ointments, lint and bandages, rushed to Shirdi and requested Baba to allow Dr. Parmanand to examine the arm and dress the wound caused by the burn. This was refused. Ever since the burn, the arm was dressed by a leaper devotee, Babaji Shinde. His treatment consisted in massaging the burnt part with ghee and then placing a leaf over it and bandaging it tightly with pattis, that is bandages. Mr. Nanasaheb Chandorkar solicited Baba many a time to unfasten the pussy and get the wound examined and dressed and treated by Dr. Parmanand, with the object that it would be speedily healed. Dr. Parmanand himself made similar requests, but Baba pushed when saying that Allah is his doctor and did not allow his hand to be examined. Dr. Parmanand's medicines were not exposed to the air of Shirdi as they remained intact, but he had the good fortune of getting the darshan of Baba. Babaji was allowed to treat the hand daily. After some days, the arm healed and all were happy. Still, we do not know whether any trace of pain was left or not. Every morning, Babaji went through the program of loosening the pattis, massaging the arm with ghee and tightly bandaging it again. This went on till Baba's samadhi, that is death. Sai Baba, a perfect Siddha, as he was, did not really want this treatment, but out of love of the devotee, allowed the upasana, that is the service of Babaji, to go on uninterrupted all along. When Baba started for Lendi, Babaji held an umbrella over him and accompanied him. Every morning when Baba sat near the post close to Duni, Babaji was present and started his service. Bhagoji was a sinner in his past birth. He was suffering from leprosy, his fingers had shrunk and the body was full of pus and smelling badly. Though outwardly he seemed so unfortunate, he was really very lucky and happy, for he was the premier servant of Baba and got the benefit of his company. Master Karpade's plague case. I shall now relate another instance of Baba's wonderful Leelas. Mrs. Karpade, the wife of Dr. Dadasaheb Karpade of Amravati, was staying in Shirdi with her young son for some days. One day the son got high fever, which later developed into bubonic plague. The mother was frightened and felt most uneasy. She thought of leaving the place for Amravati and went near Baba in the evening when he was coming from the Vada, that is now Samadhi Mandir, in his evening rounds, for asking his permission. She informed him in a trembled tone that her dear young son was down with plague. Baba spoke kindly and softly to her, saying that the sky is beset with clouds, but they will melt and pass away, and everything will be smooth and clear. So saying, he lifted his kafni up the waist and showed to all present 4 fully developed buboes as big as eggs, and added, "See how I have to suffer for my devotees. Their difficulties are mine." Seeing this unique and extraordinary deed, that is Leela, the people were convinced as to how the saints suffer pains for their devotees. The mind of the saints is softer than wax. It is soft in and out as butter. They love their devotees without any idea of gain and regard them as their true relatives. Going to Pandharpur and staying there. I shall now close this chapter after relating a story illustrating how Sai Baba loved his devotees and anticipated their wishes and movements. Mr. Nanasaheb Chandorkar, who was a great devotee of Baba, was Mamaltar at Namdarbar in Khandesh. He got an order of transfer to Pandharpur. His devotion to Sai Baba bore fruit and he got an offer to go and stay at Pandharpur, which is regarded as Baba Vaikuntha, that is heaven on earth. Nanasaheb had to take immediate charge. So he left immediately for the place without even writing or informing anybody at Shirdi. He wanted to give a surprise visit to Shirdi, his Pandharpur, see and salute his Vitoba and then proceed. Nobody dreamt of Nanasaheb's departure for Shirdi, but Sai Baba knew all about this, as his eyes were everywhere, and as soon as Nanasaheb approached Nemegaon, a few miles from Shirdi, there was stir in the masjid at Shirdi. Baba was sitting and talking with Malsapati, Appa Shinde and Kashiram, when he at once said, "Let us all 4 do some bhajan. The doors of Pandari are open. Let us merrily sing." Then they began to sing in chorus, the burden of the song being, "Have to go to Pandharpur and have to stay out there, for it is the house of my Lord." Baba sang and the devotees followed in. In a short time, Nanasaheb came there with his family, prostrated before Baba and requested him to accompany them to Pandharpur and stay with them. The solicitation was not necessary, as devotees told Nanasaheb that Baba was already in the mood to go to Pandharpur and staying there. Hearing this, Nanasaheb was moved and fell at Baba's feet. Then, getting Baba's permission, Hudi or the sacred ashes and blessings, Nanasaheb left for Pandharpur. There is no end to Baba's stories, but let me now take a halt here, reserving for the next chapter other topics such as importance of human life, Baba living on alms, Baijabai service and other stories. Bo to Sri Sai, peace be to all.